The skies above Zarinth Prime shimmered with twin moons, casting silver light over the shining towers of the noble capital. Every building glowed with elegance, and every citizen walked with pride. This was a planet where titles mattered more than skill, where names written in ancient scrolls were seen as proof of greatness. Among the nobles stood Vylera, an alien woman known for her beauty, sharp tongue, and powerful bloodline. She wore flowing robes made of rare silk from the ice rings and had never spoken kindly to someone she considered beneath her rank. That morning, news spread across the palace like fire. A human was arriving. A human? Vylera scoffed, sipping a crystal glass of dew wine. They send us a man with no noble blood, no history, no pedigree, she laughed with others around her. To them, humans were new to the Galactic Alliance, wild, unrefined, without royal families or ancient honors. They had risen too fast, and many old races didn't like it. Soon a silver ship landed in the royal court. The ramp lowered, and out stepped Liam, a human in a clean, dark uniform. He had no guards, no fancy cape, no special weapons, just calm eyes and a quiet, confident walk. The nobles whispered. Some sneered. But Liam didn't flinch. He stepped forward and bowed his head politely. "I come as a friend," he said. "Not to impress, but to listen, learn, and speak with honesty." The nobles said nothing, but Vylera stepped down from her place, walking slowly toward him with a smirk. "Welcome to Zarinth Prime, human," she said, "though I must admit we expected someone grander." Liam tilted his head. "I suppose my ancestors weren't busy writing family trees. They were too busy surviving." That line caught her off guard. Vylera raised an eyebrow but didn't reply. Instead, she turned to the crowd and waved her hand. "We shall see how long this human lasts among those with real breeding." The next few days were filled with political meetings, royal dinners, and ancient rituals. Liam watched and listened, always respectful, but never trying to act like someone he wasn't. Many tried to make him uncomfortable, but he remained calm. Then came the time for the Trial of Honor, an old event held for visiting leaders. Though not required, it was considered insulting to refuse. Vylera made sure Liam was invited. "It's a simple test," she said, hiding a sly smile. "A small obstacle course in the fire gardens. Nothing difficult." But it wasn't simple. The fire gardens were dangerous, full of shifting stones, blazing heat, and puzzle gates. Even some nobles failed to finish the course. On the day of the trial, crowds gathered. The course was shining under the red sun. Vylera sat on a high platform watching with interest. Liam stepped forward in plain clothes. He looked at the course, nodded, and began. At first, it looked like he was moving too slowly. Nobles laughed. But soon he showed his real skill, calm, steps on hot stones, sharp thinking at puzzle gates, quick moves through flame gaps. His body was strong, but his mind was sharper. One alien noble whispered, "He doesn't rush. He reads the course like a hunter." Vylera narrowed her eyes. Beginner's luck. But Liam didn't stop. At the final part where many had failed, he paused, looked up at the moving blades and heat traps, and then ran straight through with perfect timing. The crowd went silent. He reached the end. He bowed to the watching nobles, sweat on his brow but a calm look on his face. The silence broke into quiet claps. Even those who disliked humans couldn't deny what they had seen. Vylera stood slowly, walking down again to face him. "Well," she said carefully, "you passed." Liam gave a small smile. "I didn't come to win. I came to be honest, but I also didn't come to be anyone's joke." For the first time, Vylera didn't have a quick answer. She just looked at him, really looked. There was no nobility in his name, no old stories or golden medallions on his chest. And yet something inside her felt unsure, even curious. That night, she sat by her window staring at the stars. The human had done something rare. He had made her wonder, and for someone like Vylera, that was the beginning of change. The days after the trial of honor were quiet, but the silence felt different. Whispers about the human filled the air of Zarenth Prime. The nobles who once laughed behind closed doors now spoke with cautious curiosity. Some said, "He is clever for a human." Others said, "Maybe Earth breeds strength in strange ways." But none dared to say these words in front of Velaira. She was still a noble of high rank, and pride wrapped around her like royal armor. Inside her heart, though, questions began to form. Why had Liam succeeded where trained warriors had failed? Why had he not boasted afterward, as many would have done? To distract herself, Velaira turned her focus to another upcoming event, the Ceremony of Elements, a ritual that tested both mental and physical harmony. She had been chosen to lead this year's trial, and an idea came to her. She would invite Liam again. But this time, it wouldn't be easy. The ceremony took place in the Echoing Chamber, a great hall carved deep into the cliffs. Inside, 4 elemental zones awaited: wind, earth, fire, and water. Each part required balance, problem-solving, and control over fear. Only those in true harmony with themselves could complete it. When Liam received the invitation, he raised an eyebrow. "Another test?" he said aloud, holding the glowing scroll. "I suppose they want to see how far a man with no pedigree can go." Still, he accepted. When he entered the Echoing Chamber, he wore simple clothes and calm eyes. Many nobles stood around the viewing platform above. Velaira stood there too, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "I will lead from the inside," she said to her assistant. "I want to observe the human up close." The assistant hesitated. "But no noble has ever joined a visitor's trial." "I am not just a noble," she replied. Moments later, the trial began. The doors of the chamber sealed behind them. The wind zone opened first, howling tunnels with floating platforms. Liam walked forward without fear. He studied the wind's rhythm, timed his jumps, and passed through like a leaf moving with the breeze. Velaira followed, impressed despite herself. Next was the earth zone, where heavy stones needed to be stacked to open the gate. Liam didn't use strength alone. He paused, studied the symbols, then rearranged the blocks with logic, not just force. "You think like an engineer," Velaira finally said. "I think like someone who had to fix broken things." "Without help," he replied. Her voice went quiet. The fire zone came next. Here heat rose from the floor and flames danced unpredictably. One wrong move could mean disaster. Liam moved carefully, shielding his path with a reflective metal plate he found. He used it like a mirror, watching the flame's direction and slipping through safely. Velaira had never seen this trick. She copied him, barely keeping up. Finally, the water zone, an underwater tunnel with limited breadth and strong currents. Liam stopped before diving in. "You don't have to follow me," he said gently. "I do," she replied. "I must understand you." They swam together. The tunnel twisted and turned, but Liam kept moving forward, pushing through the water, with focus and calm. When they emerged on the other side, coughing and soaked, they stood under a soft blue light. The test was over. They had passed. For the first time, Velaira looked at Liam not as an outsider, but as an equal. "You don't act like the others," she admitted quietly, as they walked out. "I'm not trying to impress anyone," Liam said. "Where I come from, people value effort, not bloodlines. But effort fades. Lineage is forever." Liam shook his head. "Lineage is a story. Effort creates a future." That line stayed in her mind for the rest of the day. Later, in her private chamber, Velaira removed her royal necklace and placed it on her table. Her hand lingered there. She remembered Liam's words. She remembered how, despite every trick and test, he never gave up and never disrespected anyone. He had no noble title, no family seal, no ancient palace. But he had something more rare: honor earned, not given. A cold breeze swept across the marble steps of the high palace as the twin moons hovered above Zarenth Prime. The capital city slept, but inside the royal observatory, soft lights glowed and stars blinked overhead through a glass ceiling. Velaira stood alone in the observatory, her hands behind her back staring at distant constellations. Her mind was not on the stars but on the man who had passed every test. Liam, the human with no title, no legacy, no royal blood. And yet, he carried something rare: calmness, intelligence, strength, and most dangerous of all, influence. People were talking about him more than they talked about noble sons. She didn't like how that made her feel. Uncertain, curious, even impressed. Before she could sort through her thoughts, a soft knock echoed behind her. It was Liam. He stood in the doorway, holding a rolled map. "I was told you're the one to speak to about Zarenth's history," he said. She turned slightly, trying to look calm. "You've come to learn more?" "I've come to understand," he said. "It's the only way peace ever lasts." She tilted her head. "Most people come to take or to conquer. You come to understand?" "I'm not most people." Valera looked at him for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Come in." The observatory was quiet as they walked among the displays. Holograms showed ancient wars, royal bloodlines, and the great kings of Zarenth's past. Liam paused at a glowing figure of a warrior queen. "Who was she?" he asked. "That was Queen Jalari," Valera answered. "She united the continents through strength and marriage." "She looks fierce," Liam said. "She was," Valera replied with pride. "She led armies and ruled without apology. It's her bloodline I belong to." Liam gave a respectful nod. "Then you come from greatness." "And you?" she asked suddenly. "Who were your ancestors?" He smiled a little. "Farmers, engineers, a schoolteacher, people who worked hard and lived simple lives. No warriors, only those who fought when they had no choice." Valera was silent for a moment. Then she asked, "Do you ever feel small, knowing no famous names came before you?" He looked up at the stars. "No, because I can be the first great name in my line. Someone has to begin the legacy." Those words struck her harder than she expected. Just then, the lights flickered. A security drone buzzed overhead. Rain began falling outside, fast and strong. Within minutes, lightning cracked through the sky. "Storm season came early," Valera murmured. The palace AI warned of rising winds. "Shelter in place advised," but then a louder alert sounded. Part of the old observatory wall was weakening from the wind and rain. Liam looked around. "We can't stay here." "I know a safer place," Valera said quickly. "Come with me." They moved through narrow tunnels under the observatory, old and rarely used. She led him to a deep shelter chamber built from solid stone. As the metal doors closed behind them, the storm raged above. Inside, it was quiet and warm. The room had soft seating, old books, and star maps painted on the ceiling. "How long do these storms last?" Liam asked, drying his jacket. "Hours. Sometimes a full day," she replied, settling on a cushion. Liam sat across from her. Silence followed, but it wasn't uncomfortable. For the first time, they were alone. Truly alone. Valera looked at him, not as a noble or a leader, but as a man. "You're not what I expected," she said softly. "Because I don't have a crown? Because you make me think." Liam's voice was steady. "You mock what you fear." She blinked. "What do you think I fear?" "That your world might change," he said. "That someone without noble blood might be just as strong as you." Valera didn't answer, because deep down, she knew he was right. They spoke for hours, about Earth, about Zarenth, about duty and dreams. Liam spoke of childhood, of growing up on a planet where survival wasn't always easy. Valera shared her struggles too, of being raised to be perfect, always under pressure to protect her family's name. And somehow, in the middle of a distant world, two different lives found something in common. Respect. The storm above eventually softened. The wind died down, but something inside them had awakened. When the shelter doors opened at last, and sunlight poured in, neither of them spoke for a long moment. Everything had changed. The sun rose slowly over Zarenth Prime, casting golden light over the royal towers and gardens. But for Valira, the world looked different now. After the stormy night spent with Liam in the old shelter, something inside her had shifted. She still wore her noble robes. Her head was still held high. But her heart was not the same. For the first time in her life, she had opened herself to someone who wasn't from her world, someone who didn't carry a name passed down through books and monuments. And yet he carried something stronger: truth, kindness, and quiet power. The council chambers buzzed with mourning voices as the nobles discussed trade agreements, military drills, and ceremony schedules. Valira entered, as always, with grace and authority. But her mind wandered. Her eyes searched the room for Liam. He wasn't there. Instead, her uncle, Lord Carvin, approached her with a concerned look. "You've been quiet lately," he said. "And people talk." Valira raised her chin. "Let them. They say you spend too much time with the human." "And if I do?" she asked calmly. Lord Carvin frowned. "He has no rank, no history. He doesn't belong." Valira stepped closer and spoke softly, but firmly. "He has more honor than many in this room. Perhaps it is time we rethink what belonging truly means." Her uncle said nothing more, but his silence carried warning. Later that day, she found Liam in the quiet gardens near the edge of the palace. He was standing under a flowering tree watching the petals fall. "I was beginning to wonder if you were avoiding me," she said with a slight smile. Liam turned and gave a nod. "I didn't want to bring you trouble." "You already have," she replied, then added, "but not the kind I regret." They walked slowly through the garden path, away from guards and curious eyes. "I've never questioned my place before," she said. "I always believed our blood made us special." "And now?" Liam asked gently. "Now I wonder if blood matters less than choices," she whispered. "You've made me think, Liam, about the kind of life I truly want." He looked at her closely. "And what kind of life is that? One not ruled by fear or pride?" They paused at the edge of a small bridge over clear water. "I know what your people think of me," he said. "I know I don't fit into your world." Valira touched his arm lightly. "Then maybe my world needs to change." That evening, a royal dinner was held to honor visiting ambassadors. Nobles dressed in their finest robes, wearing jewelry made of rare gems and ancient metals. Music echoed through the great hall, and silver cups overflowed with colorful drinks. Liam arrived wearing a dark formal suit provided by the royal wardrobe, but still simple by their standards. Heads turned, whispers followed. Some laughed quietly, others looked away. Valira entered next, dressed in deep blue, her hair tied with silver threads. She walked directly toward Liam, ignoring every stare. And then, in front of everyone, she stood beside him. "My guest," she announced clearly. "And my equal." The room froze. It was a bold move, unheard of. No one spoke at first. Then, one noble cleared his throat. Another raised an eyebrow. Still, no one dared challenge her openly. The rest of the dinner passed with forced smiles and silent judgment. But Valira didn't care. She had made her choice. And Liam? He simply stayed by her side, calm, respectful, unshaken. After the dinner, they stood on a balcony high above the city. The night wind was cool, and the stars glowed gently in the sky. "Do you regret standing with me like that?" Liam asked. "No," Valira said without hesitation. "I've never felt more sure of anything. But the council will fight this," he said. "They won't accept it." "Let them try," she replied. "I've followed their rules all my life. It's time I follow my heart." A quiet moment passed between them. Then softly she added, "If we are to face the world together, I won't hide it. Liam smiled. Neither will I. In the distance, unseen and silent, a recording device blinked from the shadows of a pillar. Someone had watched, someone had listened, and tomorrow everything would change again. But for tonight, under the stars of Zarenth Prime, a human and a noble stood side by side, not as enemies or strangers, but as something more, something powerful. Something dangerous to an old world, something new. The next morning, the palace gates did not open with the usual ceremony. The guards stood alert. Nobles whispered behind closed doors. Something had shifted, and everyone felt it. At the center of it all were two names now being spoken everywhere: Valira and Liam. The recording of Valira standing beside the human at the royal dinner had already been shared through the noble networks. The council was not pleased. They called an emergency meeting at sunrise. Valira arrived with her head high. She was not afraid. Inside the council chamber, 12 elders sat around a long, glowing table. Lord Carven stood at the head. "You have shamed your bloodline," he said, firmly. "You stood before nobles and declared a human as your equal." Valira looked each one of them in the eye. "Yes, I did. And I would do it again." Murmurs filled the room. Lord Carven struck the table with his hand. "You were born into the most powerful family on Zarenth. Do you now throw that away for a man with no rank? No lineage?" "Yes," she answered. Gasps followed. One elder stood up, red with anger. "You break the ancient code." Valira raised her voice. "Then perhaps the ancient code is broken." The chamber fell silent. Lord Carven's voice dropped lower. "You leave us no choice." The decision was made. Valira would be removed from her noble seat and stripped of her title. She was free to go, but no longer welcome among the ruling houses. Liam stood in the courtyard when she came out. Her hair was loose in the wind, and her noble crest was gone from her robe. "They've taken everything," she said quietly. Liam nodded. "Then let's build something new." They packed only what they needed. No servants, no guards, no palace gifts. Together, they walked out of the gates, watched by many, helped by none. But Valira didn't look back. And Liam didn't. Slow down. They traveled far to a quiet world on the edge of the galaxy. It was green and peaceful with open skies and untouched soil. No royal rules. No noble eyes. They bought land with what little credits Valira still had. They built a simple home, stone walls, wood beams, and a rooftop that opened to the stars. They lived quietly. But their bond grew stronger. Liam taught Valira how to plant food, how to fix machines, and how to survive without status. She taught him the history of her people, the beauty of stars, and how to speak in melodies like her ancestors once did. There were no ballrooms here, no ceremonies, but there was laughter and peace. One evening, as they watched the sun set behind the hills, Valira turned to Liam. "I have something to tell you." He looked at her calmly. "Go ahead." She placed his hand gently on her stomach. "I'm carrying your child." For a moment, the world felt still. Birds flew overhead. A soft breeze touched their faces. Liam smiled. Then this world just became more precious. Valira's eyes watered, but she didn't cry. "Will they belong anywhere, Liam? With no title, no place?" "They'll belong with us," he said. "And one day, others will know their worth." Months passed. Valira's strength returned with each sunrise. She walked through fields and sang to her unborn child in the old tongue of Zarenth. Liam built cradles with care and sharpened tools by hand. When the time came, the birth was long and difficult, but safe. 2 children were born, twins, a boy and a girl. Their skin shimmered softly in moonlight. Their eyes glowed with a golden ring like Valira's, but deep within them was a strength that came from their human father, quiet and steady. They were unlike any children the galaxy had seen before. They were new. Far away, in the noble chambers of Zarenth, whispers began again. A scout had sent word. Valira had given birth to hybrids, And they were not weak. They were beautiful, strong, intelligent. The nobles who once cast her out now argued behind closed doors. Some wanted the family brought back, thinking the children could be useful. Others feared what this meant. A union once mocked was now being watched with awe. But Liam and Valera didn't care for politics anymore. They watched their children grow, surrounded by light and love. They no longer lived by old names. They had started something no one could erase. A new legacy, not of bloodlines, but of choice. The small house on the green planet stood quietly beneath the stars. It was simple but filled with warmth. Inside, laughter often echoed through the halls, small, joyful voices that belonged to the two children born of two worlds. Valera named her son Kyle and her daughter Lyra. They were unlike any others. Even as infants, their eyes watched with deep curiosity, and their minds learned quickly. At just 1 year, Kyle could speak both Earth English and the old Zarenth tongue. Lyra could climb before she could walk. They were growing faster, smarter, and stronger than expected. Liam spent every day with them, teaching, building toys, showing them how to work with their hands. Valera sang to them, shared stories of stars, and told them about both their worlds, Earth and Zarenth. But even in peace, word of them traveled across the galaxy. On Zarenth Prime, the High Council met in secret chambers. News of the hybrid children had reached them through quiet scouts and hidden observers. "They are not ordinary," one elder said. "They could be dangerous," said another. Lord Carvin, once Valera's strongest critic, sat silently. He had seen the images. Children with golden eyes and human strength. Children who could be the future of more than one world. "If they return," he finally spoke, "we must bring them under the crown. They belong to us." But not everyone agreed. "They are born of exile," another elder said. "They carry human blood. If we honor them, we betray our traditions." "So what do we do?" one asked. "Watch," Carvin said. "Wait, and prepare." Meanwhile, on the quiet planet, the children continued to grow. By age 3, Kale could lift objects, twice his size. Lyra could read books written in alien codes and draw perfect star maps. They played like normal children but held the calm focus of someone far older. One day, Liam found Kale standing near a broken machine. "What are you doing?" he asked. Kale looked up. "Fixing it like you showed me." Liam knelt. "But I never taught you how to fix this one." Kale smiled. "I just knew." Later that night, Valera said, "They are becoming something more." Liam nodded. Maybe the universe needed them. Soon, travelers from distant planets began to arrive. Not nobles, but scholars, scientists, and peace seekers. They had heard stories about the hybrid twins and came in peace, hoping to observe or speak with them. Valera and Liam allowed only a few trusted visitors. Those who met the children returned amazed. "They are not just a mix of two races," one said. "They are evolution." Another whispered, "Their minds hold knowledge we haven't even taught them." Some called them gifted. Others called them the future. One night as a gentle rain fell, Valera stood outside watching lightning flicker in the clouds. Liam joined her. "Are you afraid?" he asked. "Sometimes," she admitted. "Not for me. For them." "They'll be strong," he said. "We'll raise them to be kind, brave, wise." She looked up at him. "I never expected this, Liam. I once laughed at humans. I mocked you." He smiled softly. "And now?" "I gave birth to something beautiful, with a man who never needed a title." Liam reached out and took her hand. "No bloodline can replace love, Valera. You gave our children more than legacy, you gave them purpose." The next morning, a small craft landed near the edge of their property. It carried a woman from Zarenth, an old friend of Valera's, wearing simple robes and no royal symbols. "I come without order," she said, "only with a message." Valera stepped forward carefully. "Speak." "The High Council is watching. Some believe your children are a threat. Others believe they are a gift." Liam moved beside her. And what do you believe? The woman bowed slightly. I believe they are both. Valera asked, Will they try to take them? The woman looked serious. Not yet. But if the council changes their mind, they will not ask, they will come. The wind grew quiet. Liam said, Then let them come. We won't run, and we won't give up our children. The woman nodded. Be ready. Your legacy is not just beginning. It is challenging the old world. That night, as the children slept peacefully, Valera and Liam stood guard beneath the stars. Their hearts were steady. They had once been strangers. Now, they were parents and the future was watching them. The stars over Zarenth Prime were always beautiful, but tonight they seemed distant. Valera stood on the edge of the small balcony, looking up at the constellations that had once seemed to rule her life. They represented the old ways, the nobility, the bloodlines, the rules she had been forced to follow. But now those stars felt like a reminder of a past she had left behind. Behind her, Liam stood quietly, his presence a calm reminder of the path they had chosen. Do you think they will come for us? Valera asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam didn't need to ask who she meant. They'll come when they're ready, he said. But we'll be ready too. The message from Valera's old friend still hung in the air. HFY Council had taken notice. They wanted to control her children, see what kind of power they could hold. Some of them believed the hybrids were a gift to Zarenth. Others saw them as a threat to the very structure of society. But neither Valera nor Liam cared about the council's opinions anymore. For weeks they prepared, quietly strengthening their home, ensuring their children were safe and ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them. Kyle and Lyra, now 5 years old, were growing stronger every day. They were sharp, capable of understanding complex systems, yet still children with curiosity about the world. They learned from their parents, from Earth and Zarenth, creating something entirely new. One morning, the sky above their home grew darker than usual. The air shifted as a small ship descended from the clouds. It wasn't the sleek designs of the royal fleet, but the old military-style ships from the past, symbols of authority and control. Liam's heart tightened as the ship touched the ground, just beyond the edge of their property. Valera stood beside him, calm but ready. They're here, she said softly. Kyle and Lyra, sensing the change in the air, stood behind their parents, watching. As the hatch opened, several armed soldiers emerged, their eyes scanning the horizon. Behind them, a figure stepped out, Lord Carvin, the once proud noble who had cast her aside. Valera stepped forward, her gaze firm. You came. Carvin didn't smile. He rarely did. We came to bring you home. No, Valera said, her voice steady. I made my choice. This is my home now. Carvin's face hardened. You belong to Zarenth. Your children belong to us. Liam stepped forward, his presence equal to Valera's. They don't belong to anyone. They are their own. They are not your tools. The tension in the air grew thicker, but Valera stood tall. The children are not the future you imagined. They are something more. They will not be used to secure a title or a throne. Lord Carvin's eyes narrowed. You defy everything we have built. I defy nothing, Valera answered. I built something better. Carvin's voice turned cold. You have sealed your fate. We will take them. The soldiers moved forward, but Valera raised her hand. She didn't need to say anything more. Kyle and Lyra stepped out from behind their parents, standing tall despite their young age. Their eyes gleamed with a mix of wonder and power, something neither Zarenth nor Earth had ever seen before. Stay back, Valera warned. The soldiers hesitated, eyes shifting from her to the children. Kyle, with his natural strength, and Lyra, with her keen mind, exuded something even more powerful than fear. Confidence. It was a confidence that made the soldiers pause. They had no idea what to expect, but they sensed that these children would not be easily controlled. Lyra spoke first, her voice calm and strong, despite her small size. We don't want to go with you. Kyle nodded, his eyes unwavering. We don't belong to you. The soldiers glanced at one another, unsure of how to proceed. Lord Carvin looked back at the children, then at Valera and Liam. You've raised them to challenge everything. Valera's eyes softened slightly, but her resolve didn't waver. I've raised them to be free. For a long moment there was silence. Then Carvin turned and waved his hand toward the ship. We will leave. But this is not over. As he and his soldiers retreated to the ship, Valera and Liam stood together, watching them go. The children, still holding hands, stood with their parents, faces full of promise. They'll come back, Liam said quietly, his eyes still on the retreating ship. Yes, Valera replied, but they'll find that the world has changed. That evening, as the sky once again darkened and the stars came out, Valera and Liam sat outside their small home. Kyle and Lyra played nearby, their laughter filling the air. It was simple. It was peaceful. Do you ever wonder what the future will look like? Valera asked, her voice quiet. I don't need to wonder, Liam answered, his eyes fixed on their children. I see it every day. The future, he realized, was not defined by ancient bloodlines or titles. It was defined by the choices they made, by the love they shared, by the legacy they built together.